All right, yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, so what was your argument again? For Blackbeard scaling like more to the admirals than Shanks does, and
So
feeling sad, right?
yeah, Ace is just like I think Ace just scales better to the admirals than Shanks does.
Oh yeah, okay. So what's your argument for that though?
Yeah.
Like, why does he scale them at all?
Okay. So Kuzan and Akainu like presumably relative, and then Akainu will have like severely nerfed clashes with Shanks, and then Ace will severely nerfed clashes with like a presumably not nerfed Kuzan.
Okay, wait. So let's take
Yeah,
this one by one. First of all, why is Kuzan not nerfed here?
I'm just not aware of a nerf. Like I haven't seen it. I think it's more like when you see a character, you're just like more inclined to believe that they're like without any sort of weakness because that would be expressed as a proposition. So I think you need to prove that.
No, I'm not making a proposition.
No, I'm saying so. The reason
I'm
is
agnostic on this. I don't know if he's nerfed or not, but like you're
yeah,
positing that.
Yeah, I'm saying it's just simply more likely because the weakness would be expressed as a proposition. So it's more statistically parsimonious.
Wait, but wouldn't him not being weakened also be a proposition? So I don't see how it's more parsimonious.
Negative? I don't think negative. Okay, so I don't think negative assumptions like this actually like add anything of a burden to me because I'll just tell you this better. I don't think negative assumptions like this would actually like decrease the likelihood.
Can I just attack that first part though?
Excuse me?
Okay, even if it was the case that negative assumptions don't like do anything parsimony wise, which I'm not granting that yet, but even if that was the case, wouldn't you just be presupposing the opposite of that negative proposition? Because every proposition has a negation.
Yeah, every proposition has a negation. I'm saying
so you would be asserting something positive too. So I don't think it's any.
Oh my gosh! Again, so when you're saying the negation, you're assuming this negation, right? You're not assuming the negation to negation. That's the concession to your stance. I don't know what the fuck you're saying right now.
No, what I'm saying is that by you saying he's not nerfed, you're saying that the negation of him not being nerfed is true, which would be positing that he's going all out.
The negation of him not being nerfed is true?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what you are positing.
No, that's what I asked you. I asked for clarity what you said right now. You said the negation of him not being nerfed. The negation of him not being nerfed is him being nerfed, right? So, okay, bro. Oh my gosh. So the nerf is that proposition, right? You're saying he has some kind of weakness. You're saying that weakness is there. You're saying like that weakness is taken there in the story, or maybe you take it as to be some kind of object in the story's universe, whatever it has to be. So you can
wait.
You can express any proposition. You're not going to speak me. You're not going to speak me. You can express any proposition as a true proposition or a proposition that asserts something to be true, but in reality, like the true form of this proposition would be the negation. You're saying this thing is not true. This thing is not there. You can say it presupposes the truth of it not being there, but the true expression is still false. Like I don't know what the fuck you're saying there. You can express any. You can say the proposition that nothing exists is also would be something which asserts something to be true, which you're asserting that nothing is true at all. You see how that doesn't really make sense?
Wait, no, I think that maybe I just articulated myself bad there. What I meant is by you claiming that he's not nerfed, a non-nerfed state would be going all out, presumably, right?
I'm saying it's more parsimonious for us to assume that he isn't nerfed. And my stance of him not being nerfed is just based on that parsimony. Because, like I said before, it doesn't assume anything positive, like a damage nerf, for example, him being fatigued. All of those things are expressed as propositions, so they're true or false. And those propositions are going to add to the statistical parsimony or the lack thereof. You're pretty much your stance, which asserts more nerfs, would be less statistically parsimonious. That's what I'm saying.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm not asserting any nerfs.
Well, I'm saying again, like I said, you cannot be asserting anything. I'm saying the stance, agnosticism. You can be agnostic on this, right? But I'm saying the negation to nerfs would be still kind of the more parsimonious position. That like if you don't even disagree, then you wouldn't be like opposed to just accepting the more parsimonious stance, because agnosticism is just saying I am justified in, but pretty much you're justified in agnosticism because you don't believe you're justified in taking either the affirmative or the negation. That's what agnosticism entails. And if my position is more parsimonious, then it's already justified over the affirmative. So you're not even justified in agnosticism.
Wait, but I feel like you assuming the negative would assume two positive things here, so it wouldn't be more parsimonious. The only thing that my stance or my agnostic stance would have to assume is just like one positive claim, but you would be to say that he's going all out, you would be saying that to say that he's not nerfed, you would be saying that he's going all out and that he can fully control his power.
He can. Hold on. You
What?
think? Oh my gosh. Oh.
No, would
Okay,
you not be asserting
I'm
that he
gonna
can
make
fully
myself
control
super
his
clear. I'm
power
gonna
as
make
well?
myself super clear. I'm gonna make myself super clear. Again, agnosticism in itself, you don't assert anything. But what you do assert, what your stance entails, which kind of sounds oxymoronic, the word, agnosticism in itself entails that I am justified in being agnostic. I am justified in not taking a position because I believe that I would not be justified in taking the affirmative, which is in this case he is not nerfed, or he is nerfed rather, or I'm justified in taking. I'm not justified in taking a negation to which he is not nerfed. The negation here being he is not nerfed because you're not, like I said before, you're not taking those propositions to be kind of, you're not assuming them to be possibly there. You're just not assuming anything on them. So that's that. I don't know. The other thing you said, you're assuming that he would be able to fully control his power, like I said before. I think that's just generally the case with most people in One Piece, or like most people in real life, unless there's some kind of,
Can you show
like
that?
maybe cognitive disease or anything. Fully control his power. Like, what do you mean by that? For example, like not for example. Sorry to start off. What do you mean by that?
Okay, what I mean is that you can fully exert your power consciously.
Fully exert? You mean like literal full physical 100%?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay, I don't think anyone is capable of doing that then, but maybe in a combat scenario you'd be able to go like all out. You mean like you try your absolute best? Well,
Yes, that's what I mean.
you already like if you do any action, you show some kind of control over that action, and then
That doesn't mean you have full control, though. Wait, and also,
full control, I don't think I already said
I
I'm not committing myself to full control. I'm just saying you can try, right? So if he can try to exert himself, with Ace, for example, he can try less. We know that he's trying more than he's trying less, because if he was trying less, he could have lost the altercation on purpose. He could have not even started the altercation.
Wait, can I
But
ask
he
you a
does
question?
show. Hold on. He does show some kind of level of control over the way he tries. And then I'll just say, I think if you want to make that exception for when he's trying to try his best, or he can't actually try his best, then that would also be less parsimonious, because your stance allows for more exceptions. Those exceptions are also expressed as propositions. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. The reason why I wanted to ask you the question first, so I wouldn't be distracted by the other things you're saying. Okay, so the question is, are you saying that like agnosticism would assert that you're not justified, that you don't have to take any stance because you don't know which stance is more likely or whatever? Are you saying that would be a positive assertion, which would add to the parsimony of your stance?
No, I'm not saying agnosticism actually like expresses anything.
Okay. So then,
Hold on, I'm saying agnosticism like entails that. Sorry, people who are agnostic generally, because it's like in general philosophical discussion, it's what agnosticism is defined for. Um, I'm not justified in believing the affirmative, and I'm not justified in believing the negation. So in case you can still defend agnostic position as like a positive position, because you'd be kind of negating the affirmative or negation. But if you're just agnostic and then you agree that my position, which is the negation, is more parsimonious, a case more justified than the affirmative position, then you'd have zero fucking issue with taking my stance, because I already explained why I'm more justified than the affirmative.
okay, well, the reason why I was asking you this because I wasn't paying attention to the thing that you said previously. So can you repeat that?
Okay, repeat what again?
Repeat the thing you said before I asked you the question about the agnosticism and parsimony.
Okay. I said, I think it was about power output, right?
Yes, it was. Okay, so.
Okay, so basically, we know that he already has some kind of like level of control over his output. So he can like try more, he can try less. If he tried less against Ace, for example, Kuzan speaking, then he could have like just lost the altercation on purpose. He could have not even started the altercation. So he does show some kind of level of you know, control over how much he actually outputs of his power. So if you want to say that that's somehow just like magically stops us when he's trying to go all out, or when he's trying to use even more of his power, instead of it being some kind of like linear progression, where he's just like able to use more and more, or he's able to utilize his power further on, which he shows he does. He is able to utilize his power. Then that your stance would pretty much imply more exceptions in my sense. It would imply more exceptions with his ability to actually control his power. Those exceptions being, expressed as propositions would also be less statistically parsimonious in my sense. Any exception is expressed as a proposition within classical logic.
Okay, yes.
So,
Since my stance would be proposing an exception, it would be like less parsimonious.
yeah,
Okay,
and
but
also
why,
we can just generally like induct.
why is the exception as a proposition though? That's
Okay, exception would be defined as a proposition because so you're saying, I don't know like how to put this properly, but I already told you what I'm appealing to. I'm just appealing to like general terms in classical logic. But so let's take one example. Let's say you're saying, okay, all apples are red in this like county, right? Let's say you live in, I don't know, Chicago, and like you're saying this particular county, all apples sold are red. But in this one city, let's say the apples sold are green, and then in this one city the apples sold are like yellow. So those buts would be added on to your expression, because the expression is not only the apples sold are red. The apples sold are red with the addition of those yellow and green apples. So those are the exceptions entailed. And here in this example would be something like, okay, Kuzan is able to linearly control the output of his power, but it is stopped, or it is hindered along the lines of when he's actually trying to go out, which is both going against the induction of what we see him doing before that, where he's able to control the output before that, and it makes the exception, which I already explained how that's like less statistical parsimonious.
okay. Well, I can maybe get the exception thing, but would asserting a constant not also be a proposition?
Well, I just think,
Wait,
okay, yeah, sure, that's the proposition, yeah, but I
let me
think it's
reply to the
more.
third thing you said first, bro.
Excuse me.
Yeah, can I reply to the third thing you said first? Because you said like three things.
Yeah.
Wait, I forgot the third thing you said, those. So can you repeat it?
Well, I didn't say anything like really new. The whole point in like here is really one. You're going up against induction, so you're going against the induction of it. So we just have two particular cases where I showed you like two particular expressions or two particular propositions to which we can derive some kind of universal statement about Kuzan's ability to control his power, which is we see that he could have used less power, he could have lost the fucking fight, and then we see that along those lines, he's able to control his power there. So
Yeah, bro.
those are like two particular propositions to which we could say, okay, those two things cause us to believe that he does have control over his power. Now that shows some kind of linearity, and the exception stuff, you already know the exception. Actually, you accepted the exception stuff. So unless you like, let's just stay on the exception stuff for now.
Okay, but let me just attack the third thing you said though, which
I,
was about.
okay.
Okay, you
Sorry.
realize induction itself doesn't have to be justification. Like inductions can be invalid. Like what? Why is it the case that this would have to be a valid induction that would prove that your stance is the most likely? Even if it posits objective likelihood, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can infer that it's the most likely.
Well, sure, that's fine. So obviously, the likelihood of it, like objectively, could be like. By the way, so okay, hold on. That's a bad start. So, one, induction is perfectly valid as an inference. It's pretty much the same as deduction. So there's perfect induction, there's like imperfect induction. Perfect induction being one which derives the conclusion certainly, and then imperfect induction being one which derives conclusion probably. And deduction is the same, but it derives from, instead of deriving from universals to particulars. So you're grounding judgment off of a universal proposition, and you're like deriving other propositions from that universal. It's kind of like the opposite with induction. So there you're saying because this, therefore that, pretty much. So I'm saying because we see Kuzan does have control over his power there linearly. Therefore, I think it's just more consistent for us to say that he would have full control of his power. He would pretty much the linearity there would continue with his control of his power. So that's what I mean. And if you want to say, okay, likelihood doesn't actually have to like induct to a probable likelihood or a likelihood that would be over mine. Cool, but that's not how conversations go. I presented a likelihood and you didn't. So within the context of the conversation, my thing would still be more likely. That's kind of like how it works.
Wait, no, because when you are having a debate and somebody's asking you to show objective likelihood, what they usually mean is for you to show that your stance is the most likely objectively. And I think that you would need that to even have an imperfect induction. Because wait, let me just explain why. Okay, so let's say, no, we can just say it with your example anyway. Okay, so your example would be positing that there's some likelihood to the ace thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But that likelihood could be, say, like 2% or like 0.1%. Wouldn't that fall under a hasty generalization?
No. So a hasty generalization is just saying, so like for example, I saw two black people at the store rob people, and therefore all fucking black people rob people. So it's just like deriving. Well, you attempt to induct something off of an insufficient amount of, um, you know, insufficient amount of funds, pretty much, insufficient amount of evidence.
Yeah.
And that's only derived off of like a known. So you can derive a hasty generalization off of a known sample of things. Or you could say maybe an induction isn't like that valid, but that's what we use inductive assumptions for. Inductive assumptions is like saying, okay, we observe something, we observed a set of particulars. Therefore, we can assume some kind of universal off of those set of particulars, unless like presented with something which directly contradicts or like maybe goes contrary to those set of particulars.
Okay,
So that's
Gyro,
an
let me
inductive
ask you
assumption.
something then.
But hold
If
on.
I see let me just, I'm going to give an example and say, like, let's say if you think that your stance still sounds like coherent after I give this example. So let's
Yeah.
say that I haven't seen any fruits and I only see an apple. Like, based off of that evidence, would it be like justified for me to infer that apples are the only fruits in the world?
Well, you're deriving off of one particular, and then you're deriving the other.
You're
The
deriving
other
off.
particular here, the other proposition here, the other particular here would be that I haven't seen any fruit. That's fallacious in that because you're arguing from ignorance. So no, obviously that's not coherent. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm deriving from two positive propositions, which would derive to a similar universal. But anyways, in the sense of a conversation, yeah, you can ask to derive an objective likelihood, which I did. I gave you an objective likelihood for this, which would be the induction. You don't really give a fucking numerical value for the probability. You just say that it's probable in some like unquantifiable sense, and it's more probable than your stance because, which is what I'm trying to do here, make it more probable in your sense within the sense conversation. Show that my stance is more likely within the sense conversation because I actually presented you with some kind of reasoning for it. So the conversation is not about. I mean, it is about trying to reach the truth about what's happening objectively in the story, but that's reached through you actually presenting some kind of reasoning within this conversation. If you don't, then there's no way for us to infer that your thing may even like be in the same realm of possibility or probability with my thing, which already has reasoning for it. So that's how conversations usually go. I agree with you that you want to reach some kind of objective likelihood, but that's reached to determining which is more likely within the context of the conversation.
Okay, yeah, you said a lot of things. Can I just respond to the last thing first? All right,
No.
well, fuck you, bitch. Oh my god, bro.
Okay, you can respond whatever. I don't care.
All right, so basically you're saying that you wouldn't actually be able to find out which is more likely or whatever. I don't think that matters. And for the other thing that you said, you were
Wait,
basically
excuse me. Can you say what does it matter again?
okay. Yeah, why does it matter if, like, based on the evidence presented here, that people are able to find out which is more likely? When you're debating to win, like not
Yeah,
to.
you're debating. Okay, you're debating to win against the other stance. If you're saying how you determine which is more likely in relation to another stance, I already told you the metric there would be that one has objective likelihood presented for it, and the other one doesn't. It's more likely in virtue of that because likelihood is always going to be over no likelihood. That's just tautological.
No, but here's the thing: you don't know if my stance has no likelihood because the likelihood is unknown. So wouldn't you just be arguing from ignorance by virtue of that? And the other thing that you said was that I was arguing from ignorance, and then you're not. So can you show the distinction there?
Yeah, I can. So within that set of particulars, the one of the particulars, or when I say particulars, I just mean propositions. This is like the singular set of propositions which would lead you to some kind of universal inference. So one of the propositions would be just arguing that I haven't seen an apple, and you draw from there. Well, sorry, I haven't seen any other fruit. Well, if you just derive from the lack of evidence, which is what you're doing there within that proposition, and you try to derive some kind of conclusion, that's an argument from ignorance directly. I'm arguing from just asserting some kind of positive. I'm asserting that okay, we saw that Ace. Sorry, I'm sorry. We saw that Kuzan is able to already have some kind of like control, and then we know that that control goes like up and down. He can like regulate that kind of control. He can actually control his output. Therefore, we can actually derive the universal that okay, maybe it's just more consistent for us to say that he actually has some kind of like control over his power. So yeah, that's not an argument from this. And then for the first part, yeah, obviously we don't know like the objective fucking probability or stance. We don't know actually any probability of anything. Like only Oda knows how what is true. I don't even think he knows what is more probable. The probability here is derived from the conversation. The conversation is for the sake of determining what's actually more likely within the debate. Like we don't go into the debate saying, okay, my stance has like this likelihood, your stance is this likelihood. No, we go into debate and we make our things more likely within the context of the debate to actually try to reach some kind of objective conclusion for the story. So saying, okay, but my stance can have like this likelihood which actually outweighs the likelihood presented. That's not a productive way to go about conversation. One and two. That's not how we usually go into conversation at all. This is not like you're not. This is like just shifting the goalposts. It's like definitionally shifting the goalposts.
Okay, wait. So the first thing I have is why is it shifting the goalposts?
Yeah. So you're saying, okay, present some kind of likelihood pretty much, or you're asking me to make my stance more likely, and you're saying, okay, but you haven't made it more likely because my thing can be more likely than that. It can be like actually more probable. But that since the probability is unknown, we would need to like pretty much present even more probability. Well, not only is that not like a productive way to go about conversation, as I said before, because that's not how like this context of conversation usually goes. But I think you can already tell the issue from how I explained it. The possibility of your thing having more objective likelihood than mine is not really a relevant defeater. That is because we don't know whether or not your thing has some kind of objective probability over mine, or has like any objective probability or possibility which even rivals mine. Because I presented my possibility, right? I presented my likelihood increases. Sorry, and to match that within the conversation, or actually like have some kind of probability presented within the conversation, or have some probability accepted in the conversation, you would need to present your likelihood increasers. That's how we go about it. That's how we defeat actual stances. So the more likelihood increases you have, you win the debate. That's how debates work. So yeah, obviously it's possible that your stance has like objectively more likelihood. Well, that's cool. I don't really accept that. That's not how conversations work.
Okay, you're saying that conversations work, but doesn't that kind of get into like subjective territory?
No, I'm telling you, we go into this debate trying to reach some kind of objective truth about One Piece, right? Or about which character is the other character. Do you disagree with that, like in any capacity?
Yeah, I do. Wait. I'm not gonna fully commit myself to this because I think that a lot of try to derive conclusions about what's true in One Piece based on their own experiences, or they'll watch an informative video. But I can agree that in some cases this may be the case.
Well, okay. So they've watched a formal video which attempts to do the same thing. That it attempts to convince you about something which happens in One Piece. But within this conversation, do you think we're trying to reach some kind of objective value, so objective truth within the realm of One Piece about like which character beats another character?
Yeah, I think that's why we would look into whether my skepticism, like, objectively is valid to falsify whether or not you're objectively proving that your stance is more likely than mine.
Again,
If
so we determine which stance. Okay, we do not know. We don't go into this debate with some kind of like thought in the back of our head saying, okay, cool. We have like these two stances. These stances have like varying possibilities within the story. and then we go off of like those varying possibilities. No, since we do not know these possibilities or probabilities of these stances. Sorry, since we do not know the probability of these stances independently, we make them more probable via the likelihood increases. So that's very meta to say, okay, cool. You presented me like, let's say 10 fucking likelihood increases, but maybe my stance is more likely since we don't know the likelihood of it. You know, we will literally never know the likelihood of stance. You can literally keep doing this forever. Like since we do not know the likelihood of stance, we have to go by the likelihood increases. We don't know the likelihood of my stance either. Like, you see how that doesn't like really move the conversation forward. The only way to actually move the conversation forward is to say, okay, we have objective likelihood, but we don't know it, so we have to go and try to reach the objective likelihood by saying, okay, we have these likelihood increases within the story. We present those likelihood increases. We compare those likelihood increases and say, okay, I have more, so I win the debate. So like that's how we move the conversation forward.
So for you, it's a pragmatic issue. But let me just ask you this: why do you think it's the case that we can't objectively come to a stance being the most likely or not? Wait, so let me just ask you something. Would it not objectively be the most likely stance? Let's say that there's two conflicting propositions, and one of them has a P not P, and it's a contradiction. Would we not say that, probably by Oda's view too, that the other one that's non-contradictory would be the objectively most likely?
Yeah, I agree, because unlike some kind of objective truth or like some objective like 100% truth, actually that doesn't really make sense. But contradictions are always just they cannot be. So this thing called epistemic probability, and so an epistemic probability of 0 is literally, it's not a lot of things. One of those things being literally a contradiction. Like, we in all cases, the contradiction is a probability is there. So if your thing can be more likely than a contradiction just in virtue of it not being a contradiction. So that's that's an objective, yeah. But when I say objective likelihood, I mean obviously assuming that both stances are non-zero probabilities, which is just non-contradict each other, but then also like
Wait, no.
they don't
I
have
don't
any
think that.
likelihood increase or anything.
Yeah, so basically you would be saying that in fiction there can never be cases where there are contradictions. To say that,
No, that's
the
not said.
distinction between this is there's a 0, right? No, because you're trying to bring up that, if I bring up a contradiction, I'm showing like certainty that my stance is correct and that your stance is wrong, right? And then that's not actually a likelihood increaser argument. But
No. If you
now
show
you're
a contradiction, all of this is said from the perspective of two non-zero probability stances. So both stances are like presumably not contradicted, or no, obviously both about the likelihood of 0, which is, like I said before, being not contradictory. Going into the conversation, that's enough to be a non-zero probability. And then from there, we just say, okay, we do not know the objective likelihood of these two stances being in the story, which we will never get to know that. Like, literally, we can have this conversation for literally the next 10 days straight. We will never be able to point down an objective numerical value to your non-zero probability currently. Let's say it is objectively like 40% right now, and my thing is objectively 50% right now. We will never be able to point that out. The only way to go about this, like I said before, and the way we usually go about this, like pragmatically speaking, yes, it's to present more likely increases. So yes, it's not only a pragmatic issue, but it's also how it's the only way to actually go about determining what's more likely within fiction. Like, I don't see what's so hard with that. I gave you a method, you didn't present me a method back. So how are we supposed to actually value some kind of objective possibility? How are we supposed to come to a numerical value to your probability? And not let this devolve into me presenting 20 more fucking likelihood increases to say, oh, but we don't know if that's more, we don't know if that's sufficient because we don't know the objective probability of my thing. Well, okay, cool, nothing's fucking sufficient then. I can say the same thing about your
I think you're confused.
Oh, shit.
I don't mean like the exact objective value. What I mean is objectively knowing that one is more likely than the other.
Well, that would be more closely reached through actually presenting the likelihood increases within the story. That's what we're trying to reach here.
I did have
The more likely you present for your stance within the story or within the conversation, the more likely it is objectively to be more likely within the fucking story. So we're trying to reach that conclusion now. That's reached by what? Actually presenting likelihood for your position. That's how it goes. Yes. So use some kind of reasoning to induct your position.
Okay, wait. So I think
position.
that this point is circular. So can we just move on to the other things you said? Like, even if you did,
I mean, I didn't go circular, please, but okay. Well,
even if you do win this point, I can still like just attack the stance another way. But
no, you already accepted that there's your thing. You accepted the exception stuff, and you accepted that presumably your thing would have presented more exceptions. Or at least you didn't attack that part. So I don't see how you won this point at all.
No, I attacked the exception thing. What do you mean?
No, you said you accept the exception thing, but
Wait,
if you
no,
want to
no.
attack it now again.
Yeah, I agreed to that, but I also pointed out another thing that you would be bringing that would decrease the parsimony of your stance.
That being,
Get that? Or do I need to repeat it?
yeah, that being what?
Okay, and then I asked you, would would be saying something is constant not also be a proposition?
Yes, but that proposition expressed in a formula way, that's more parsimonious. Obviously, I think that's a proposition, but you're saying you're not declining this continuity, or you're not continuity of the output level. You're saying he would kind of lose the level of output or the control of output somewhere along the line of this continuity. That makes sense. So, like imagine like a stamina bar, for example, or like a health bar, whatever, like in Mortal Kombat, and then along the health bar, like let's say at 70% of the health bar, you just lose the you lose the ability to control your power now. Like that's pretty much what you're saying. I'm saying, well, if we can infer that at least to some level he can control his power along that line, then I think it's just more consistent for to say that he would keep that ability to control it along the westward line, because the exception there being expressed proposition would obviously be a problematic thing for your stance.
Okay, wait, so you said two other things. I was just attacking this first part. What were the other things you said?
Well, it's also I just presented you an analogy. If you're talking about like what I said right now,
No, I don't
it's
mean for
all
like a sub point. I mean the overarching point, because I know there was two other things that I didn't attack, just because I wanted to attack it once at a time.
well, it's really when I present you an introduction for why he used all his power. Then I said the exception stuff, like yeah, like I said before, like it would just be less parsimonious. And in terms of that, that's it. Like that's all I said. So
Yeah, okay, all right. I guess I'll just like give an argument against your thing. If we just presuppose that I lost this point to just move on the discussion.
wait, if you lost this point, don't you just like lose the debate?
No, I don't think so, because I can still attack your point in a different way. Yes, or
Wait, what are you talking? Are you talking about like the ace relative to cooldown part, or like what?
no, the ace
Because like,
relative part. Yes, that's what I mean.
okay. So I mean, I already said that ace is like nerfing like these several ways, and then Kuzan
Yeah, can I
is presumably not nerfed.
start first? All right, so why is he nerfed?
Yeah, he was nerfed because he was beaten, like literally brutalized, to the point where Garb doesn't know he's alive. And then after that, we know that, well, that's kind of like subliminary, but the main part is he was pretty much tortured. He was beaten. Like it's a brutal damage nerf. But besides, we know that his VV card is like burning up as we speak, so he's like losing life energy.
I thought that his Weaver card like regenerated.
It might, I don't know, but that's not the main point either.
No, because
Like, you can
aren't
show me it's regenerating, but you do agree that it was like burning up during Marineford.
okay, yeah, but you agree that the Weaver card is indicative of his health. The non-contradictory way to interpret this would be to say that.
I
Oh
don't think
well,
it's hold on, I don't think it's indicative of his health. I think it's indicative of like how close he is to death. So, health, like for example, I can break an arm, and I'm less healthy, but my VU card obviously like wouldn't, like,
no,
it wouldn't start
that's
breaking
how
up because I broke an arm.
closer to death you are, presumably. Do you not
Well,
agree with?
yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, it's like how close to death you are, but I don't think that would be indicating how like let's say like I said before, I get like some battle damage. I don't think that's
No, but
just
let's
like any battle damage would just burn my VU card out.
you just say that these two things connect. Would it not? Yeah, it would be the case that the closer you are to death, the lower your health bar is too.
Yeah, I agree, obviously. But that just like how, yeah. So that would correlate to how much power you can output, because I think your life energy and like for example hockey or anything else in One Piece, I think that's pretty much where your power output comes from. So you wouldn't be able to like throw a punch as hard because you don't have the will to. But yeah, but I don't think like just I think him burning. That's why I brought it up as two different nerfs. I said,
Wait, hold up. I gotta charge my phone. I'll be.
yeah. And by the way, I have to go in like literally 5 minutes. So like, hold on.
I'm back. Who won?
Well, Isaac is very confusing to luck. So let me tell you that.
How am I confused? What the fuck?
Well, you're very confused. Actually, I can explain why. So, the first point. So the whole thing was, you need to present. Okay, so for the induction part, I give you an induction, and you say, okay, why is this induction like some kind of objective way of saying your thing is more likely? I said like within this context of a conversation, that's how we would determine whether something is more likely or not by which has more likely increases, the induction here being likely increaser. And you said, okay, but we don't know the objective likelihood of my stand. And I said, we will never be able to know your objective likelihood unless I present when I'm talking about like an objective likelihood, obviously I mean like a non-zero probability. Obviously I can grant that if my thing is contradicted, then your thing will be objectively more likely, but we will never be able to determine that unless maybe Ola tells us, or maybe we have some kind of like way to objectively numerify it, which we don't. So the only method which we can attain within the conversation would be to actually present likelihood increases. That's how we attempt to reach the truth objectively. So I just present you and you just like kind of went circle on that. I think that's like
No, bro. I gave another method. What do you mean? I gave the
method being
contradiction
wrong was the method. Yeah, I grant the contradiction method. I agree that if your thing is contradicted, then my thing would just be objectively more likely than your thing. But I'm talking about like non-zero probability sense. The thing is, we can't derive a contradiction for either sense currently. So we would just go off of like some positive likelihood increase for either sense to determine which is more closely to being which sense is more close to being objectively more likely. So that's how we go off of. But either
you
way,
said that we can't drive a contradiction because neither of them are zero probability. No, what I'm
no,
saying is that we can
that's not what I
drive
said.
whether one would lead to being to likely going to a contradiction.
Okay,
That
so
wouldn't
I
be
said,
zero probability.
I said a non-zero probability is something which is not okay. Epistemically speaking, I don't know if you're like read up on epistemic probability, but a zero probability is something which is a zero probability, like something with zero probability epistemically, is something which is contradicted. So, and I think there's some more stuff that would make you zero probability. That's like literally like one of the only ways to be like a zero probability. So a non-zero probability is something which is above a zero probability. So it's like invert you to not being contradictory, you already be above a zero probability. I'm talking about you can't objectively say which non-zero probability is more likely within the story because we will never like we're trying to do that within the conversation. We're trying to come to which is more objectively likely by giving those likelihood increasers, by actually using reasoning and saying, okay, we observed this in the story, we observed that in the story. So in virtue of that and all those factors, this is objectively more likely because objectively speaking, sense independently, we have all those factors which would kind of infer this reality or this universal, which is literally what objective likelihood is. That's the way to determine objective likelihood. And you can keep moving this goalpost like for literal years, saying, "Oh, you presented all that stuff. You presented like me like 5 different ways to reason this. You gave me 10 different scans. You gave me presented like whatever the fuck else. But we don't know what the objective likelihood of my stance, bro. Cool, that's fine. That's not how we go about this. Like it will never end. Like I present you what my thing is probably more objective likely. Like that's it.
Okay, yeah, and then we're just moving to like the ace being nerfed shit, right?
Yeah, but I have to go anyway. So like, good discussion, I
Okay.
guess. But you should read on the theory of induction or like
Okay,
Bayesian
wait. Do you think
probability.
that I did better or worse than last time?
I think you're more confident in yourself. Yeah, I think you did better. But I have to say, you like were you writing stuff down during this conversation or no?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so try to do that next time. I know it's like hard to like keep up sometimes, I mean, like with writing stuff down and like just thinking what to respond and stuff. But I really think it will help. I didn't like write down. I didn't write down stuff either this conversation, but usually I do, and that like helps me
Well,
a lot.
yeah.
So.
Well, if I was tracking a little bad, it's not like because I'm stupid. It's just because I feel like you use a lot of big terms, so it's kind of hard to track a little bit.
Oh yeah, bro. Okay. I unintentionally filibuster like a lot, so like I don't blame you at all. I actually tried to keep it down because um I think it's like just hard to track. Even for me, like if I heard myself speak, like I like what the hell is this guy talking about? Like you know. But yeah, good conversation though. So yeah.
Okay, see ya.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, wait, motion, unmute, nigga. So how was I doing?
Yo, you actually didn't do that bad, honestly.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, you kind of got body, but like not nearly as bad as it was like months ago. Like you kind of pushed him a little bit.
Okay, like what diff you think?
Probably like mid diff, but it's not like you didn't grow. It's probably that he's even better as well because he definitely had to
Yeah.
like, use more stuff that like I never heard of, or and some new stuff that he's like never said before as well. I don't know, man. But
Not gonna lie, yeah, I
Quick-
might have to start writing shit down. Too. Like, he be
Oh, yeah,
spamming a lot of
definitely.
terms. He even told me to, so.
I'm back. Who
I
are
need
you?
to start writing stuff down too, cause I like forget and like skip over a lot of things sometimes.
I'm back. Who are you?
Yeah, bro. We didn't get judgment, but motion thinks Gyro run though. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'd say probably, but I'm not sure.
I wrecked the whole
Because
thing.
we didn't even finish.
I wrecked
Okay,
the
I
whole
think
thing.
we
because,
probably
like-
won the first point, but we didn't finish the
Especially
second.
on that like that agnostic thing, he definitely won that part. I'm pretty sure.